everyone, James Knight Numbers here. Welcome back to another episode of the Political Freedom Fighters podcast. In this episode, I have with you all today an unaffiliated running for Cherokee County Board of Education at large. With that being said, I want to introduce to all of you Mr. Tom Beasley. How are you, sir?
I'm fine. How are y'all?
We are doing great. So the first question is, who are you and what do you do?
Well, my name is Tom Beasley. Who are you and what do you do? Well, let's see. I served with Cherokee County Sheriff's Department for 10 plus years. I've been a general contractor pretty much the rest of my life. Been married to the same woman for 29 years. We have 7 beautiful children. I'm a foster and an adoptive parent.
Wow, 7 kids. Wow. And
Yes, sir.
and you said that you're also a foster and adopted parents. What's that like?
Well, it's challenging, but it's a blessing.
That's awesome. So what is the foster system like?
Um, I'm trying to figure out how to articulate this. I mean, it's a great system. Provide a home for children in need. It is frustrating at times. That there's a lot of bureaucracy and red tape, so to speak, that goes along with being a foster parent, but it's well worth it. It's worth it to be able to reach these children and just be a positive role model in their lives.
That's awesome. So let's talk a little more about your history.
Okay. What would you like to know?
I guess either personal or political or both.
All right. Well, personal history. I am a deacon in my church at Marble Springs Baptist Church. I love to serve my community and help those around me. I believe that's what we're all called to do. So that's what I do. Political. I am a unaffiliated registered voter, always have been. I don't believe that either party absolutely lines up with my beliefs and morals 100%. So that's the reason I'm unaffiliated.
Alrighty, that's awesome. So why are you running for Cherokee County Board of Education at large?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Oh, okay. Why are you running for Cherokee County Board of Education at large?
Well, long story short, I had no ambitions to ever running for a political office, just to be honest with you. It's something that God put on my heart. And I'm just trying to be obedient as to what he's called me to do. I'm just a citizen who loves to serve his community and his neighbors. There's a need, so I'm willing to step in and see where I can help.
That is awesome. So what is the Cherokee County Board of Education?
What is the Board of Education?
Yeah.
Well, they basically set the rules and the policies for the school system here in Cherokee County, along with navigating the rules that are set by state of North Carolina.
Alrighty, fair enough. So, I guess my question to you is, what's your thoughts on the major parties?
Well, one party actually lines up with my beliefs more than the other. I think both parties are flawed. But anytime you have man involved in anything, it's obviously going to be flawed. I mean, if you have a certain question or something about either party, I'd be glad to answer it. I mean, but like I said, I'm unaffiliated, so I don't adhere to either party. I think that the school board itself should be a nonpartisan position. You know, it should be focused more on the citizens and the children than the party.
Alrighty, fair enough. So let's go over your competition. Who are you running against?
Well, right now I would be running against Randy Phillips, who is a registered Republican, and Flip Watson, who is running as an independent.
Alrighty, that's awesome. And based on what I see, the Democrats aren't even running anyone. Why is that? Why did they chicken out?
I have no idea. I honestly don't know why anybody else hasn't stepped up to be willing to serve.
And okay, with that being said, let's go over your platform. So, what is your platform?
Well, my platform, in a nutshell, is success for all. We in Cherokee County, we have a great graduation rate. But with that being said, I feel that there are a lot of students that are not prepared to take on the next part of their life after graduation, whether that be going on to further their educational career in a 4-year college, or joining the military, or joining the workforce. I think that there is a big void right there.
All right, fair enough. How would you plan on addressing that?
Well, I think that we need to strengthen our CTE programs. We've got some great resources here locally, Tri-County Community College. I think that we need a partnership with some more businesses and maybe have some more internships. I would like to try to see the ROTC get started here in Cherokee County to better support those kids that might be deciding to go into the military. But that's not just a recruitment, the ROTC isn't. It also teaches civil responsibility and stuff like that. I think things that each and every one of us could benefit from.
Alrighty, fair enough. Now, I guess let's talk about the CTE programs. Like, let's go into more detail on that.
Okay, well, we actually offer several CTE programs right now, but I would like to see them broadened. I would also like to see some trade brought back into the school system. You know, years ago, we've kind of left that platform, you know, the shop classes and stuff like that being offered in high school. I think it gives the kids a good head start in figuring out what they might like to do with the rest of their life, and give them something to build off of.
I am so glad you mentioned trade, because I think the average tradesman is like very old from the last time I checked, and trades is
The average age is 50 years old.
yeah. And unfortunately trade has been extremely stigmatized at a time to where trade is desperately needed more than ever, you know?
I couldn't agree with you more. I've got, like I said, 7 children. I've got some that are in college right now. I've got some that are getting ready to go in college, and then I've got a couple that will probably end up in a trade of some sort. And like I said, it should be a pathway for all, not just graduation for all. Is kind of what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because college is not for everyone. I remember my parents trying to be like, "Oh, you need to push for college because it's the only way to success." And I was like, that type of thinking is why some college students end up wasting their like degrees, and they work a minimum wage job, and it really sucks.
You're 100% correct there. I'm a big advocate for trade. Like I said, I've been a general contractor pretty much my whole life. I've been able to provide a a good living for me and my family. And there's nothing wrong with it. You're absolutely right. There is a stigmatism about it. We push that every child should go to college, but in reality, college isn't for everyone, and that's okay. But we need to equip them, like I said, for prepare them for the next part of their life. Granted, most 18-year-olds, when they graduate, they don't really know what they're wanting to do, or what that's going to look like. But we can better equip them to give them an informed decision.
Absolutely. So let's talk about this ROTC program that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah. Well, the ROTC program, like I said, it's a great program. It actually is subsidized by the Department of Defense. They will pay for 50% pretty much of the teacher's salary to teach a course. You have to have an enrollment of 10% of your school, or I believe 100 students, whichever is less. Like I said, it teaches them civil service, which is something I think that we can all benefit from, serving our neighbor, which is what our Lord and Jesus Christ commanded us to do. It also I don't want to say kind of takes the place of a physical education, but it kind of falls in those lines along with it. It promotes leadership in students, which is something I think would benefit the majority of them. And it teaches them service.
Alrighty, that's pretty fair enough, and I do believe from ROTC programs they do offer some stuff other than just wearing uniforms. They do have drills. I remember one of the ROTC program in my high school. They did once a month. They did an adopt a highway program where they pick up trash during a public while we're in class. And yeah, we found some interesting stuff over the years. We even found a dead bird or at some point on the grass. It was insane.
Yeah, well, that's that civil service part, getting out and serving your community.
Alrighty, let's talk about the partner businesses and internships. Tell me more about that.
Well, I'd like to see our schools come closer together with some of the businesses that we have here local. Maybe let some of our kids go in and do an internship or shadow with them, just to get a feel of what it's like, to be in the workforce. Let them get their hands dirty, so to speak, and see if that might possibly be a career, that they might want to pursue as they get older.
Alrighty, fair enough. So when it comes to internships, how many types of how much influence should internships have in terms of inspiring the next generation?
Well, I think that they could be a pivotal role in these kids' lives. Like I said, nobody really, I remember me at 18 years old, I had no idea of what I wanted to do. I think it gives them an opportunity to see firsthand what the workforce is like, what's expected of them. So I think it's a win-win in that category, in that situation.
Alrighty, fair enough. Is there anything else that's on your platform that you want to talk about?
Well, one of the major issues here in Cherokee County right now is a consolidation of school. There's a big push for that here. The citizens are actually pretty divided. as to what that should look like. We live here in a rural area of Cherokee County, the westernmost tip of North Carolina. A lot of people think that North Carolina stops at Asheville, but there's actually quite a vast area past Asheville. Myself, I would go on record to say that I oppose a one school consolidation. With that being said, there is a need for some sort of consolidation or something to provide our kids better facilities, to pursue their education. With that being said, your education don't come from a new building. It comes from the teachers and the investments that we make in these kids, which, here in North Carolina, we still haven't passed a budget. So that makes it real hard to retain and recruit new teachers. That's another part of my platform that I think that we really ought to focus on, is supporting the teachers that we have, is supporting the administration, having clear policies for all, regardless of where you go to school at or what sport you play or what your last name may be. I think it ought to be a fair playing field across the field for everybody. And I know that's not just here in Cherokee County. I know that goes on, not just in North Carolina, but throughout every state. But I truly believe that shouldn't be the way that it is.
I agree. And how do we get more teachers, get more people to be in the teaching field? Because I've been hearing that some people are quitting teaching because of the stress and the money and many different reasons. So how do we get more people to be in the teaching field?
Well, how can we encourage more kids to go into the teaching field is actually a good question. And I wish I had the answer for that. I have a daughter who's currently enrolled in at Western, and that's what she's going to school for, is to become a teacher. I think you have to have a heart for it. I think that maybe with some better support, we could probably do a better job, like I said, at pushing that. I don't want to say pushing that on kids, but encouraging them. A lot of teachers, that's a thankless job. I mean, it truly is. They don't get as much support as they deserve. They don't get the recognition they deserve. I think we need to really better equip our teachers. If you kind of look at the way that our school system is going now, especially after post-COVID, with all the iPads and all the technology, and don't get me wrong, technology is a great tool. It's a great tool, but we've actually kind of turned it into a crutch. Our teachers are becoming more of monitors than they are teachers. Whenever you have a Chromebook put in front of you and everything is on that, from your lesson to everything, we've kind of lost something with the one-on-one, the classroom discussions and stuff like that. I think that is not real beneficial to our children. Don't get me wrong. I know some kids can excel on, with that platform like that, but not every kid is the same. I've got some kids that's a major distraction for them. Just the temptation of having that screen in front of them, they want to get on and maybe play Minecraft or listen to music or watch YouTube channels all day, instead of focusing in on their schoolwork, which is what they need to be doing. So myself, I would like to see the technology utilized, but I don't want my kid completely taught off of a tablet either. There's something to be said about the way that we retain information, through reading and writing. Sad part about it is I've got a 10th grader who had to write an essay here not too long ago, and the child couldn't even structure it. I'm not talking about punctuation and grammar or any of that. They absolutely could not structure an essay because they don't have to. Everything is done now off of the iPad or Chromebook, and it does it for them. So we're losing something there.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting you say that. Back when I was like in elementary school in the first half of my like middle school life, we didn't have technology. It actually wasn't even until like the beginning of 7th grade where technology was being introduced to like my school. And this was like back in the 2010s, right? And technology was
Yeah.
being introduced over time. And yeah, over time, teachers have started to become relying more on technology because they see the benefits of technology.
And it does have its benefits, but it's also got its drawbacks too. When we let the technology become the teachers, that's where I have the issue with it.
I understand, and in some schools around the country, some school systems actually buy some sort of systems where they allow like teachers to spy on their students, and I've been seeing some of that on YouTube, and it's caused a lot of concern on the internet, and yeah, that's pretty scary.
Yeah, I'd say a vast majority of these schools actually have that implemented. Um, and it's like anything, it can be used for good or it can be used for bad. I understand monitoring screens and stuff like that to make sure that a child is actually doing what they're supposed to be doing, not looking up material that they have no business looking up. Um, but that still happens. And then with the increase of technology, you also have the increase of the cyberbullying and stuff as well, which I know that happens. We've experienced it here in my household, so I know it happens.
Yeah, and I'm actually glad you mentioned cyberbullying too, because it is becoming an increasing problem too, from what I've been hearing.
It has.
So, I guess, is there anything else that's on your platform that we can go over?
Well, I would just like to see us get back to the fundamentals. Um, concentrating on the reading, the writing, the arithmetic. I think that we have to start at a younger age. I would like to see parents get more involved with the school system. I would like to see us co-partner with them. Nobody knows your children better than you do. Uh, with that being said, that's why I think that there needs to be a stronger partnership. Parents need to have more of a voice in the school system than what they're actually afforded now. Um, I would like to see more counselors put in these schools. Right now, I think the student per counselor ratio is way out of balance. Some of our schools only have one counselor. When you've got a couple, 200-300 kids in the school, that's an issue. We need to create a safe environment for these children, especially in today's world. I mean, it's absolutely insane, the things that they're exposed to and just the dangers that lurk around every corner. We need to be more in tune with the literature that we're exposing our children to. I mean, the needs are vast. It's hard to pinpoint all of them just right now, but they're vast.
Fair enough, and I do agree with you. We really got to start teaching more people how to read and write because, like, test scores for like English and math and overall test scores in general, I've based on what I've been hearing, they have not been the best at all. In fact, I've been hearing that people are becoming more increasingly concerned about kids not being able to read or write. I'm even seeing videos across the internet right now talking about how Gen Alpha can't read or write or whatever. And I'm sure there's a lot of Gen Alpha kids that can read and write, but the fact that there are some that can't is scary.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, look at. I remember whenever I went to school, we was instructed in cursive writing and reading. You know, that's been taken out of the school system now. Um, funny little story. My daughter promposed, if you know what that means, to her younger sister to allow her to go to prom with her. Well, the sign that she wrote was in cursive. Well, one of the teachers made the comment, she probably can't even read that. My daughter let her know real fast that, yeah, she could read and write cursive, but that's because we hired a tutor and invested in our children to make sure, you know, that we're filling in those gaps where the school system's failing. If you look at the scores of North Carolina, they have plummeted over the past few decades. I mean, we're like what, 50th, bottom of the totem pole. You know, something's got to be done about that. I mean, we're doing these children a grave injustice with the
Absolutely.
education that they are receiving.
Absolutely, I agree with you. So, with that being said, we still got quite a bit of time left. You said that you were a general contractor earlier. What's that like?
What's that like? Well, it's hard work. It's what it's like. I mean, you kind of elaborate on your question there as to what you'd like to know about general contracting, and I'll answer it for you.
Yeah, sure. What does a general contractor do?
Well, a general contractor, I've done residential and commercial buildings. I've come in and graded land and prepped the site for concrete and built commercial buildings or residential houses from ground up, start to finish.
Wow, that's actually pretty awesome.
Yeah, there's a need for more trade. You know, you had touched on that about the age of your general tradesman nowadays is roughly about 50 years old. You have more people retiring than you do have coming into the trades. That's what I've told my sons. I've told them, I said, you can, if you go into a trade, you learn the trade, you're honest, you're fair, you have a premium price because there's nobody else that does it. You know, I believe in a honest day's work for an honest day's pay. There's no sense in trying to make all your money off of one job. You know, but with that being said, I mean, Lord, look at the average wage for a tradesman now. You know, you're talking $30, $40, $50 an hour. There's a lot of kids go to a 4-year college that don't make that.
Absolutely.
And you don't have the debt on top of it from the student loans and everything else.
Oh yeah, definitely. I hear student loans are like freaking intense, and they take like decades to even pay off, if you can even like pay it off. You know, it's a
Yeah, if you
lot.
can even pay them off. It does. It's, I don't know why we have pushed kids in that direction for so many years now. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I value an education. You know, that there's nothing better than a good education. But a 4-year degree isn't, like I said before, isn't for every student. College isn't for every student, and that's okay. We need to let them know that that is okay. But unfortunately, that seems to be what we push. I know here in North Carolina, we're more concerned about test scores than we are anything else. But to me, that ain't really how we should be gauging success in these kids. We should be looking at success as in, have we prepared them for life? To me, that's what success is. Yeah, you might make real great on your end of the year test grades and all that. But if you don't know how to do basic arithmetic or finances or, everything else that comes along with it, then to me, we have failed.
Absolutely. So, you also mentioned that you used to be part of the sheriff's department. What was that like?
That is a grueling job, and my hat goes off to anybody that is in any type of service work like that whatsoever, whether it be the sheriff's office, the police force, EMS, fire department. It's a thankless job. I mean, it truly is. It is grueling. It is one of the most high stress situations that you can put yourself in. It actually has the highest suicide rate of any job that I know that there is. And there's a reason. It also has the highest divorce rate of any job that there is.
Oh my God, that's insane. Why do you think that is?
Yeah. Well, just to put it bluntly, is because you are immersed in evil every day. You're surrounded by it. And it's hard to walk through a cow pasture and come out smelling like roses. I mean, you're just subjected to negativity and the things that you see. I mean, it stays with you. It just stays with you. So my hat goes off to all the men and women out there that serve our military, our civil service. They just don't get enough recognition and thanks. And then you look at the way that society is today. It absolutely breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. There was a time that jobs like that were held with esteem. Now they're ridiculed and spit at. Why anybody wants to get into that type of job nowadays is beyond me, just to be honest with you. I mean, it's a calling. It truly is. The turnaround rate is astonishing. Whenever I first started, I think they told me that the lifespan was roughly about 5 years before somebody's either burned out and quit or, resigns, however you want to put it. And there's a reason that there's such a turnaround in jobs like that, because it's not for everybody.
Fair enough. So you also mentioned that you were a deacon as well. I guess, what is a
Yes,
deacon?
sir. A deacon is somebody that serves their church. That to put it simple, that's what it is. It is a servant leader.
Do you get paid to do it, or?
No, sir. No.
Okay, well, what?
No, there's no pay involved. I mean, my riches ain't here on earth.
All right, fair enough. What's it been like being a deacon?
Well, I mean, I love it. I get to serve on the body of Christ. I get to serve my neighbors, my community. I've been blessed to be able to go on several mission trips at home and abroad. We just had Hurricane Helene, not too long ago, and I went and served a couple times with cleanup and rebuild and stuff like that. I've went to Puerto Rico after a hurricane and helped the citizens there, and I've also done it in the Bahamas and um, throughout the U.S. It's just to go be the hands and feet of Jesus.
That is awesome. I thank you for doing that, because someone's got to do it, right? And the government's not the best answer for everything, unfortunately.
Well, I truly believe, that God is the answer. Um, I know not everybody believes as I do, and I'm not trying to, push my beliefs on anybody else. I know that's not what your platform is about, but at my core, that is what I am. I'm a bond servant to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Alrighty, fair enough. I guess now that we got a lot of this out of the way, I usually I do ask this question a lot with unaffiliateds running for office. So I'll ask you this: where do you fall on
Mhm.
the political spectrum, do you think?
Are you trying to get me to define myself as a Republican or Democrat, or is that what you're asking?
Like, what ideologically, where do you align with? It doesn't have to be Democrat or Republican.
Right. Well, I'm conservative. Um, I mean, I am conservative. Um, I guess if I had to lean one way or another, I would lean more to the right than I do to the left.
Alrighty, fair enough. When it comes to unaffiliated candidates, I actually am going to try to connect. I'm actually trying to connect them to third parties in our state, because I want to be able to retain them within the movement after the election, because I want to be able to help third parties and independents be able to connect with each other and grow on issues that they share, because I believe in third parties and independents. And that's why I want to ask you this next question: would you be open to getting endorsed or working with some conservative third parties in our state? I actually know quite a couple.
Yes, depending on the party and what they represent, I wouldn't be opposed to that.
All right, I'll definitely try to get them into contact with you after this interview. And speaking of which, do you think it's possible for you to potentially get me in contact to Mr. Flip Watson?
Well, if I had his contact information and stuff, I would be glad to help you out. Unfortunately, I don't. He's a resident here of Murphy, North Carolina. Um, I mean, from what I know about him, he seems to be a good guy. I personally don't know him. I don't have anything bad or negative to say about anybody. That's not my style. That ain't what I do. Um, but like I said, if I had his contact number, I would be glad to share it with you. But unfortunately, I don't.
That's all right. And also, there's also a woman who is running for a Cherokee County Board of Education District 3, which seems to be a different district than yours, who's also running as an unaffiliated
Yes.
by the name of Carmen Owens Garland. Do you know anything about her?
Well, I've met Miss Garland, and I actually signed her petition. I also met Mr. Watson, and I signed his petition to allow him to run. Just to support them. I think their hearts are in the right place. I really don't know what their platform is. We haven't actually had the opportunity to sit down and discuss our differences and our commonalities with each other. But it's a pretty small community where we live up here, and I've not heard anything but good things about either one of them.
That's awesome. Well, I'm also interested in trying to get Miss Garland on my show as well. So,
My only suggestion, the only thing I would know would be to suggest that you would reach out maybe to the Board of Elections, and they should have that information.
alrighty, fair enough. And I'm actually glad that you mentioned that you've also helped sign petitions for other unaffiliated candidates as well. And that's what it's all about. Third parties and independents like working together and teaming up in order to make change. Because the thing about this is, right, that's actually part of the reason why I made this podcast, because I really want third party and unaffiliated voices to be heard, because I do heavily distrust our state government because of ballot access laws, and only because of ballot access laws, but it is what it is, and I'm never going to stop
Right.
doing these interviews because I really want to make a change doing this.
I agree with you. I think it's great, and that's how come I agreed to come on your podcast with you. Um, like I said, I think certain positions should be unaffiliated to begin with. They make it real hard for somebody that is unaffiliated or some of the third parties to be considered. I think any civilian that is willing to step up and serve their community should have the opportunity to. There's a lot of hoops that you got to jump through to become a unaffiliated candidate. Going around with the petition, trying to get a percentage of the registered voters, to sign it to allow you, for your name to be considered. It's a daunting task. It truly is.
Absolutely. So, how's the campaign doing right now?
My campaign's doing fine. I've actually not ramped it up real heavy just because it's a long time till November, and unfortunately, people have a short memory. I mean, we can all attest to that. Just look at our government. I mean, they've got a real short memory. But I'm getting ready to start hitting the campaign trail pretty hard and see where God takes me.
Alrighty, fair enough. Now let's talk about your social media. Do you have any social media at all, or?
No, I've not really got any. I mean, I'm on Facebook, obviously. I have my own personal Facebook page, but I've not done anything as far as my campaign social media on any platform as of yet.
All right, that's cool. So, tell me more about Cherokee County. What's that like? What's there to do there?
What's there to do here?
Yeah.
Well, Cherokee County, to point it put it bluntly, is 2 hours from anywhere. We are 2 hours from Atlanta. We are 2 hours from Knoxville, roughly 2 hours from Asheville, close to 2 hours to Chattanooga. We are a small community. It's pretty vast as far as the acreage here. It's a rural community. We've got some great hiking trails, a lot of nice rivers, those that like to kayak or fish or anything like that. Some real nice camping designations. Not here in Cherokee County, unfortunately, which is something that I really wish our commissioners would look into doing. You have to go outside the county to find a decent one. But I mean, it's just a great town with small town values. I mean, I love it. It's a great place to raise your children. I mean, it's just, I'm sure it's not for everybody because it is a slower pace up here. Compared to like Asheville or, nothing like Charlotte or Raleigh or anything like that.
Alrighty, fair enough. So, I guess my next question for you is, what's your favorite food?
What is my favorite food?
Yeah.
Oh man, I love food. I can't think of really anything that I don't like as far as food goes. I like all different types of cuisines. I like Italian. I like Thai. I like Mexican food. Um, I love fresh vegetables. I'm an avid gardener. I actually have a farm where we've got some cows and goats and chickens, and um, my daughter. I give her thanks for that. She is a um, avid animal lover. It doesn't matter what kind it is; she wants to bring it home.
That is awesome. Do you earn like any profit from the farm? I hope so.
No, I don't really know anybody that earns a profit from a farm. I'm sure there are some out there that do, but that would be a whole lot larger scale than I've got. Um, we basically it's for our use. Um, I don't know if you would want to label it a hobby farm, but I guess you could.
That's fair enough. What are the tasks to like being a farmer?
Well, it's long days. You know, you got to get up early in the morning, make sure everything's fed. You got to keep everything nice and tidy for them. Make sure your animals are healthy and getting what they need. Whenever I'm not tending to the animals and stuff, like I said, I'm probably in the garden tending to my vegetables. It's an all day thing, but I do it out of love, not for profit. You know, it's just something that I enjoy doing.
Fair enough. What's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie. Um, well, I like a lot of genres of movies. It would be hard for me just to put my finger on one and say, you know, oh, that's absolutely my favorite movie. I'm not real big into horror films or anything like that. But I do like comedies. I do like dramas. I like action movies. Um, I like Christian based movies. Um, Kind of the same way with music. I mean, I like all genres.
Fair enough. And I find it, I'm actually glad you mentioned about Christianity because I've actually been in contact with one of the parties, and right now I'm currently just doing some reading that I've been assigned to, and I'm not sure if I'm going to get all of it done, but right now I'm currently reading like the book of Daniel, and some stories are freaking
Mhm.
pretty interesting, and
Yeah.
I haven't got a chance to finish yet. I do have like four more chapters to read, but I guess really, what's your favorite aspect of the book of Daniel?
Obedience.
Oh yeah, for sure, obedience. And I think like in like the first chapter, I believe like Daniel and his like three siblings are we're eating a plant based diet, and the king was trying to like feed him meat, and Daniel didn't want it, and they did
Hmm.
like a 10 day 10 days of a plant based diet. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. That Daniel was a good book. I really enjoyed the book of Daniel. Um, you know, he stood firm in his faith, um, regardless of what he was facing. Um, you know, and God elevated him through that because we have a faithful and loving God, and that's what he does.
That's great. Hold on. Let me see if I can let me see if I can pull up my phone real quick first because I was also given a list of other books to read, and I actually haven't got a chance to read them yet. And let me see here. So hold on. Sorry about that. Okay. There's also some other books that that I've been recommended to read, but I haven't gotten a chance to look at them yet. So I guess tell me your opinions about the following books. I guess we'll first start off
Okay.
with the book of Joel.
All right. Um, all of God's word is profitable. You know, I mean, so I don't really understand what you're trying to, um, your question that you're asking me. I've read through the Bible. I read it every morning. That there's wisdom in all of it. One of my favorite books of the Bible is actually Proverbs. I don't know if you've read Proverbs, but it is full of wisdom. I like the book of Romans. I like basically. I mean, I like it all.
Okay, fair enough. I guess I'll scrap the book list for now. I guess what's your favorite proverb?
Um, what is my favorite proverb? Ooh, that is a good question. I mean, that would be hard to pick, just to be honest with you. I mean, I love the whole book of Proverbs. I mean, like I said, it's just full of wisdom. Um, oh, Lord, if I had to pick one,
You can pick more than one if you
let's
wish.
see. Right. Um, the beginning of wisdom is the fear of God. I mean, I love that verse. Um, I like the verse in Proverbs. It tells you, tells fathers not to stir up anger in your children. Um, I mean, there's a lot of wisdom in that. If you get down to really the root of what that means, um, not that our kids are always going to love everything that we do or say to them, because it's for for their benefit. Um, but don't, for lack of better words, I guess don't nitpick everything. Kind of pick your battles, so to speak. Man, I've never had anybody ask me what's my favorite proverb. Just to be honest with you, kind of hit me on the spot there, because that is one of my favorite books. It talks about in there, the root of evil, or money's the root of all evil, but it's not actually money. It's the value you place on it. But that can be said about anything in your life. Scripture tells us that anything that you value more than God is what you worship. And unfortunately, for a lot of us, money is what we worship. So I really like that one. It talks about loving your wife the way that you should. With the way that Jesus, in this kind of New Testament, the way that Jesus, loves us sacrificially. And that's the way that we should love one another, is sacrificially. Unfortunately, in today's world, we've kind of been taught to put ourselves first, but that's not really how it's designed. We should be putting God first in all things, and then putting others above ourselves.
Alrighty, fair enough. Let's see what else here. Have you read the book of Joel?
I have, but it's been a while.
What do you remember about the book of Joel?
Uh, I'd actually have to open it back up to jar my memory, because like I said, it's been a while. It's probably been a couple of years since I've read the book of Joel. Right now, I'm actually in the book of John. I'm doing a Bible study with a lady who is near the end of her life, and she's just looking for encouragement. So I've been going over and reading the book of John, because there's a lot of encouragement in that with her.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Although I wasn't assigned to read the book of John, I'm actually pretty interested. What is the book of John about?
Well, John, the Apostle John, it's about the life of Jesus. Basically, what the four main books in the New Testament is, it's about obviously Jesus's birth, and then his life, and then his death and resurrection. They're all four, you know, basically the same, but told through somebody else's perspective. I mean, they were all there with him, you know, but that's like an eyewitness account. If, say, if you have 4 or 5 people witness a crime and you go interview each one of them people, they're all going to give you different accounts of what they seen, you know, and that's what it is. You know, everybody knows what John 3:16 says, you know, for God so loved the world. You know, it's real encouraging. It just tells us about the life of Jesus and the sacrifice he made on our behalf. I don't know if anybody recommended you the book of Romans. I don't know if you're a believer, but that's a real good book to read as well.
You know what? Even though I wasn't recommended the book of Romans, I'm kind of curious now. What is the book of Romans about?
What is it about? God's love, the same thing that the Bible is about. The book of Romans was actually written by Paul, who was originally his name was Saul. He had the distinct, he's kind of distinct because Saul was both Jewish and a Roman citizen. In the early days of Saul's life, and I call him Saul at this point and not Paul, he actually hunted and persecuted Christians until he had an encounter with Jesus on the road to Damascus, where Jesus blinded him. And then he went on to write most of the book. I don't want to say most of the books, but a lot of the books in the Bible were written by Paul. If you study his life, I mean, this man meant, I mean, it was torment, shipwrecks, people trying to kill him everywhere he went, and he was faithful to preach the gospel up until the end.
Wow, that's pretty good. So let's see here. What else? Oh yeah, the book of Revelation.
Yeah,
What is the book of Revelation?
that's a good one. Are you going to be studying the Revelation? Because it's actually helpful if you have already read Daniel, because there's a lot in the Old Testament that points to Revelation.
Really, I did not know that. I actually really appreciate that. I guess tell me what the book of Revelation is about, since I am going to be reading it.
Well, the book of Revelation is about things that we see unfolding in front of our eyes right now and things that are to come. The book of Revelation is basically talks about the tribulation, when the Antichrist rises up, and the end times until our Lord and Savior makes his return.
Interesting. I will definitely look forward to reading that. And there are some other things I was recommended, but you know what? I guess what else do you want to like talk about? Is there anything else you want to talk about, or?
I mean, nothing that's coming to right off the top of my brain, but I mean, if there's a question or something that you have, I'd be glad to answer it to the best of my ability.
I guess my last question for you is it all right if I hook you up with a couple of the other parties? Like I give their contact information to you, so that way, like people they know, so that like you can know about them, and I give you and I give them your contact information so that they can know about you as well.
Yes, that would be fine.
Alrighty, that sounds awesome. I'm definitely going to be doing that right after this interview. And with that being said, everyone, that's going to be it for the Political Freedom Fighters episode. I'm sorry. That'll be all for this episode of the Political Freedom Fighters podcast. If you are all new to the channel, hit the like button down below, hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel, type in a comment for any suggestions that you may have, and hit the notification bell so that way you can be notified on any new upcoming episodes of the Political Freedom Fighters podcast. And with that being said, I want to thank you so much for watching this video. I want to thank Mr. Beasley for attending with me today. And with that being said, I hope you all join and I'll see you all later.
Thank you, James. Thank you for your time and for what you do.
You're welcome.
I hope you have a blessed day, and I hope you dive into Scripture, and I hope that God just reveals himself to you in a mighty and powerful way.